So in the previous video we covered the reverse trending baseline strategy of the Modena package, as well as had a look at the trending baseline. So this video we're going to look at the flat baseline strategy. So the main two charts that we have is a trending baseline and a flat baseline. So those are the tick charts that we'll look at. And you'll notice that the flat baseline chart has a lot of wicks on it as well that can actually be traded. So we'll look at the strategies first. And here is the flat baseline strategy. So it's the same settings as we have in the trending baseline strategy. If you go and refer to that video, if you've watched that, you'll be familiar with all of these, the retracements, the ATMs, the minimum distance, the maximum distance, the stop ticks, space out entries. All of that is exactly the same. Same with the time slots. We've got the time slots built in. Again, just remember to put your AM hours first and then your PM hours and on each tick. So I'm going to go ahead now and just apply the strategy. I am targeting a specific distance to the baseline, which is 5 ticks, and I'm also spacing out the entries by 5 ticks. So let's go and apply that and then run through the playback for last week's data. Okay, so let's take a look at the performance of the strategy over the week. So strategy performance real time, and that was the result. So if this had been your trading account for the week, you would be a nervous wreck, because it was a huge up and down situation. So starting off with making 5,000, losing 200, losing 1,800, making 22, losing 14, up 7. So those are the specific trades that were entered. So the reason why I ran this is because the trading week itself as a whole was an uptrending week. So we knew, obviously, after the week had completed, that the entire week the price had been trending up. So from the beginning of the week to the end of the week, it was up the whole way. But this specific trading strategy is more designed for like flat or ranging markets. So if I just look at, let me just close this off. So that's what this strategy is more designed for. It's designed for the price just ranging between a price, because it's counting on the price coming back to a baseline. So it's counting on it going up, counting on it coming down. So up and down, up and down. It's not really designed for a huge uptrending or downtrending type of a situation. And there were specific times in the week, like over here as an example, where the price literally went up from its from a low point like this. It just went up. It went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 baseline breaks basically in a row. So it went up almost 1,000 ticks between the 20th of May 6:04 to 10:17. So that was the day that it basically lost a huge amount. Now, if you were watching this chart live and you had your signal chart up, you would have the option to choose whether you want to go short only, long only, or both. So those are little buttons that you can activate during the trading day or during a session, while you are trading the charts. And if you are noticing that there's a definite specific trend in the market, you can select only long positions. Then what would have happened in this case is, if these, like this baseline over here, if you had activated that after the 2 went straight up like that, these positions over here would not have sold, and these would not have sold, and these would not have sold. So it would only take long positions and not short positions. So just another way of features in the strategy that could come to your aid when you are live trading the market is choosing very specific directional trades. Now with this strategy, we also just had we chose a fixed target. So we had a space out entries and a fixed target of 5 ticks. And the slide that you just saw now is using the ATM strategy inside the flat baseline chart. So you can apply the ATM strategy in the flat and the trending. We're going to use it in the flat. I've got 3 targets and 3 ATMs. So if I quickly look at my ATM if I look at my 3 ATM that I've set up, this is just the one that I created. So I've got 3 targets. So one's going to have a 10 stop loss, one's going to have a 20, one's going to have a 30, and they're all going to have, one's going to have a 30 target, a 50 target, and an 80 target. And what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to create a custom trigger. So I'm going to create a custom trigger for this. So basically after 15 ticks, so after 15 ticks plus 2, it's going to basically do auto break even. Let's do 15 plus 3, it's 18. So that's going to create an automatic stop trigger. So let's just see what that looks like. Okay, so it's with the trigger, and with the trigger. Now you can go play around with the ATM feature. It's a pretty cool feature in the strategy. Okay, so let's go back to the strategy now and select. I've selected that ATM in there. I'm doing a 20 retracement, so that means the price has to move 20 ticks. It has to retrace by 20 ticks before it enters that ATM order. So I know because of my trigger, if it enters the ATM order, I know that my trigger of my ATM is on 17 ticks. So if it retraces another 17 ticks, my stops are going to move to break even plus 2 ticks. So it should be that before the next order is entered, these strategies are exited, if that is if it comes to that. So let's have a look and see what that actually looks like on the chart. So we're still going to be entering. So when you're selecting the ATM on the strategy, you're still selecting a specific zone that you want to trade. So let's just play that, and I'm going to press start. So it's also determined by the start. So you can also start it when you want to start it, and it will start submitting the ATM orders. So we've got, I'm just making sure all the settings are good. So whatever stop and target that you've got selected in here, your stop loss, your target to baseline, none of those mean anything when you've selected an ATM. So again, I should really be amending those buttons if an ATM is selected, which I will do on a future update. Okay, so we're waiting for the price to retrace 20 ticks before the entry is actually submitted. Let's see what that looks like. I don't want to go too fast because I want to actually see it submitted, and then there we go. So that is the order being submitted. Now again, you can go move your stops and your targets with the ATM. So that is the benefit with that. Notice that the strategy did not pause, so it's still continuing on. Might just forward this a little bit. So we're in 3 positions at the moment. And you may have to just go and work with your ATM strategies to find one that will work in the situation of having it on a chart like this where it does not pause. You want to make sure that you're not trading on a chart where the ATM is just constantly submitting orders, and that could end up being a huge losing situation. So the price has not retraced, so it has not submitted another ATM order. It's just basically risen so far. Let's see what it does with the last order. So it's starting to retrace now. It's entered another lot of positions. So this is the second ATM that it's entered. There's now 4 positions open. So also know that if you've got 3 positions in your ATM, that, if you've got 3 entries in your ATM, know that if you've got 10 entries per direction, max entries per direction, it's going to enter 10 times 3, which is 30. It's going to enter 30 positions. So there it actually exits at that position. So in that case, it was actually very safe because the trade's exited, it hasn't got multiple orders in play, and it can continue entering positions. So let's see what it does on the next one. So that's very handy. So you can have this ATM set up like you have, and then you can start, you could start moving your stops when if you would like to, based on what your trading approach is, and then go from there. So I think that is enough about the ATM. You just need to go and play with it. You need to go and choose your own custom ATMs, create your ATMs. If you don't know much about the ATMs, go and watch a few videos on them to see how they can actually benefit your trade. Now let's take a look at the reverse flat baseline chart. So it's exactly the same as the flat baseline, but we're applying the reverse strategy. So on this reverse strategy, we covered this very briefly on the other video with the reverse trending baseline. We'll just cover a few aspects of this over here. So let's space out the entries by 10 ticks. Let's have a 10 retracement, and let's not choose an ATM for this. Let's have a weight X ticks as 10, a maximum distance as 50, and a stop ticks the other side of the baseline as 50, and a target of 50. So it's basically, let's just see what that looks like on the chart. Now ideally you would activate this type of a setting when the price has returned to the baseline. So let me see if I can, because we're trading from the baseline, or our minimum distance is very close to the baseline, I'm going to just activate it at the baseline, because the last thing we want to do now is we don't want the price to enter into the maximum zone and then start entering sell positions there and the price returns to the baseline, because we are doing reverse. Okay, so I've just fast forwarded a little bit to get it entering position. So what it's basically done is it's entered 1, 2, 3 positions. One of them hit a profit target, and it's exited. So it's entered 3 and exited 1. So another thing too is when you're looking at if you are adding in the data series, if you are adding text and marker, it's going to show you what strategy entered the position. So you can actually view that on the chart, so you know exactly which strategy has entered the position. And that's helpful when you've got 2 different strategies running on one chart, so you know which one did which. Okay, so let's just let this continue. So it's only going to enter between this side, and here is the stop for it. Okay, so it's gone and hit those targets on that baseline. So that is pretty good. So it's buying again, the same type of thing. Those ones hit their stop. Now it's selling. Let's see what this one does. It's only entering a maximum amount of entries in that area, so that's why it's only entered those 3 positions. It's not going to enter any positions in this zone because it was out of the minimum and maximum marker. That trade there hit its stop. That one hit its target. That one hit its target. Those ones are hitting their targets too. Those hit their losses, their stops. So those sold and bought. So you can see it's like a type of a zigzagging. It's type of a zigzagging thing actually, where you're going to see the price. You're going to see the positions entering and exiting, and zigzagging the baseline. So you'll see positions buying, selling either side of that baseline, and by having that stop the other side of the baseline, you've got the opportunity of not having this trade exit when the price returns to the baseline, but instead go and hit their targets. And that's what's happened over there. And currently we're in a sell, and it looks like this one might hit its stop. Now it's not entering any positions until those entries have exited. Now because it was in a short, it wasn't doing any buy positions there because of those current positions that were still open. So something to look at for this. Every one of these strategies is good for something. So it's good just to play around with them. And there are so many different approaches to trading. Some people like trading drawbacks. Some people like trading retracements. Some like trading support and resistance. So if you lay this chart over a lot of other charts that you may be used to using, you'll find that the strategies like this that you can activate at key points when you're noticing support and resistance, that we can also look at on our signal charts that we're going to discuss soon. It will really help with determining when to start a strategy, when to pause it, and which settings to run. Great, thanks for that. And that basically covers the Modena Wick Trader strategies. Thank you very much.